Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 67, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing on this fine evening tonight?
Doing excellent, Phil. Happy to be back talking some great fights from the past weekend.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've got so much to discuss today, folks. Here's a quick little breakdown of what we have on tap. First, UFC 250 recap. Oh man, I love that card. We'll get to that in a second, Fight Geek. After that, preview and picks for UFC Vegas 2. I do believe that's the official hashtag, which is I versus Calvillo. And then after that, listener questions and more. So, Fight Geek, let me start off with this question for you. We saw Amanda Nunes pretty much decimate Felicia Spencer this weekend. Felicia went all 5 rounds, fought great, fought tough, but got decimated. My question for you is, who is next for Amanda, and who can possibly stop her in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, 3 to 5 years is a long projection there. I don't think that she'll be around for 5 years personally. I think we're probably only going to have maybe 2 or 3 more fights max. So that's probably maybe
really?
2. Yeah, I think so. I think she'll end up obviously getting the Valentina fight again. I think she'll defend 135. That could potentially be Irene Aldana if she beats Holly Holm in a recently announced fight, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Dana shut down Val versus Nunes 3. He shut that down.
Right, well, he can shut that down, but at some point that may be like the only option for a relevant fight for either of them. Do I think it's going to happen next? No, I don't.
I see. Okay. Sorry.
But could that be, the final fight of Amanda's career, perhaps? 2 fights from now, I could see that potentially. I don't see Holly Holm getting another title shot if she wins, but if Aldana wins, that would really line her up for a shot at Nunes. And Nunes actually seems to, although I think she mentioned wanting to take a short break, she has been a fairly active champion, so I think she would probably just take the next person up and keep it moving, and then eventually maybe make her way back to 145 if Megan Anderson can win another fight or so. But the outlook is not bright for anyone who's going to be able to beat her. I thought her performance was near flawless. If she fights like that against anyone in the 135-pound division, I think she finishes them. I just think that Felicia Spencer may be a little too tough for her own good. She took a beating in the Cyborg fight, and she took an even worse beating in this fight and was still there after 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say is that I thought that fight could have been comfortably stopped after the 4th round. I don't think there was anything left to prove at that point. I don't see anybody beating Nunes anytime soon. The only threat, obviously, and this has been overstated, I would say, is Shevchenko, but I don't see that happening in the next 18 months. So it's going to be Amanda for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me if you agree with this. I think that Nunes is better now at 145 than at 135. Is that fair or is that crazy?
I think it just depends on the style she's facing. I think at 145 you clearly see how much power she has on the feet. I mean, she just lands and you can feel it through the television. So I think at 145 she's clearly the most powerful striker in the world of female or women's MMA. So I give it to you that she's probably a little bit better at 145, but the lack of competition at that weight class is not really going to allow us to see her do that too many times. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, so are we ready to jump into our UFC 250 recap?
Let's do it.
All right, so Fight Geek, I don't know about you, man, but this was, from just in terms of how the card turned out, this was one of my favorite cards in a long time.
Absolutely. I was super intrigued by the main card, just the names and the stylistic matchups, and they all delivered. So I think it was a great card, top to bottom, but the main card in particular was fascinating. So
absolutely.
Great card.
Okay, so we'll get to that. Let's very quickly go over in order. So Gilbert Burns' brother Herbert Burns immediately gets the rear naked choke submission 1 minute and 20 seconds into round number 1 against Evan Dunham at lightweight. That was it was a catchweight, at 150, but that was a pretty awesome fight. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was pretty decisive for
Yeah.
Herbert there at the end. I think, Evan Dunham's an OG of the game, but he just has so many miles on him, and I think it's going to be hard for him to physically compete with some of these younger guys like a Herbert Burns. So I thought that was a one-sided matchup going in, and it kind of played out that way. Evan Dunham says he wants to stay active, but I just don't see a ton of guys he's going to be able to beat on the roster. With that being said, Burns has looked better and better in his last few fights, but still a little
Reminds
bit
me of his older brother a little.
Say again?
I said reminds me of his older brother a little bit.
Yeah, but he's not quite on that level. I think
Right.
he still has a little more developing to do before he's near the elite ranks.
Oh, totally, absolutely. Okay, so moving on, Devin Clark defeated previously undefeated Alonzo Menafield, costing me a ton of money. We don't need to talk about that. Let's not talk about that.
Well, it was a tough, grueling fight where I think both guys probably took away some moral victories. Alonzo Menafield, undefeated guy, big muscular guy, never been out of the first round. He didn't get stopped. That was the first time he was extended in a fight, and he made it to a decision versus a tough veteran in Clark. So I think that's a win-win there in that fight.
Definitely. Okay, moving on. Alex Perez beating. Now this was interesting. Beating Jussier Formiga via TKO leg kicks at 406. Calf kicks. Okay, yeah. I'm going by Tapology here. It says leg kicks.
I mean, this was an absolute destruction, and this was one of the hardest fights for me to call on paper because of Formiga's kind of elite level history. I thought that there would be a little more back and forth, but it seemed like from the jump, Perez was all over him. He was the more aggressive striker, and he just pounded that lead leg, and it became a problem immediately. That was an unbelievable performance that I think is going overshadowed because of how many unbelievable performances were on this card.
100%. Like I said, this was the most fun I've had with a card in a long time. I mean, 249 was great, so maybe I think it's comparable though. I mean, it blew my expectations away.
Well, every fight delivered for the
every
most
fight
part,
delivered. So, exactly.
It's a good segue to the next one. Maki Pitolo beating Charles Bird. Mm-hmm. And this was Pitolo was a little bit of a sleeper for me, but I did roll with him last week, and I was actually incredibly impressed with him at 185. I think he looks like a player.
Oh yeah, he looks like a huge factor. I think it would be crazy to say otherwise, frankly. I was very
185 is a little stagnant when it gets like 10 through 15, so I think he could come in and have some fun matchups immediately.
Definitely. Moving on to Brian Kelleher versus Cody Stamann. Wow.
And this was more theater and drama, obviously, because of what Stamann was going through, all the
with his
respect
brother.
Of the world to him for, enduring what he was enduring and performing the way he did.
Yeah, for those that don't know, by the way, his and please correct me, Fikey, his brother, I believe, passed away a week prior.
Yeah, I think, very recent.
Very recent. So. Very, very sudden and very, very recent.
Yeah, so, I mean, to go through with it, I understand, I've recently dealt with loss in my family, so I understand people have to go back to work and life has to go on, but it can be incredibly difficult. And for him to perform the way he did, I tweeted that night that he reminded me of a Sean Shirk type fighter, the way he is very muscular. He has that good wrestling base, but he also has a very tight boxing and seems to put together his combinations. I think Stamann's a player as well. Very good performance by him. Kelleher's a tough customer who is not going to go away easily, but I think he beat him to the punch for the most of the fight.
Yep. And the one thing I wanted to say about that, look, Stamann is obviously an absolute Terminator, but Kelleher, oh man, he would not quit. I mean, I had to give him a salute of respect for that, right?
Absolutely. Kelleher's a fun veteran. He's like a good measuring stick guy. He's not going to go away. He's a tough guy. So, yeah, all the respect to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Gosh, this was such an awesome card. Even just,
right.
Ian Heinisch versus Gerald Meerschaert. Heinisch got the TKO with the overhand right and ground and pound. 1 minute and 14 seconds of round number 1. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this fight really bugged me because on air I picked Heinisch, and then for some reason I thought that Heinisch was out of the fight for a minute.
Yep, that's because his corner tested positive for COVID. Yep.
So then I picked Mearshart versus the replacement guy, and by the time I post my picks, Ian Heinisch is back in the fight and knocks him out
Right.
exactly how I was envisioning it going. So I picked wrong on my formal picks, but last week I took Heinisch. But with that said, Heinisch, he just was too big and strong for Mearshart. Mearshart gets hit quite a bit, and when he wins, it's like he endures some punishment to scramble and find the way later on, and Heinisch just never gave him any of that opportunity.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Oh, this was a big fight for me. Alex Caceres. Is that how I'm saying it? Is that correct?
Caceres.
Caceres.
Just call him Bruce Leroy. Come on.
Okay, Bruce Leroy. Versus Chase Hooper. Man, Chase showed some guts, but he looked like he hasn't had one round of sparring in his life. And I know I sound like a 500-pound fat guy on a couch. I get it.
Yeah, but the one thing you don't want to let 20-year-old kids do is prove how tough they are by getting punched in the face 100 times. I just don't think that's not the best way to develop a 20-year-old talent. Obviously, the kid has some potential.
He's got heart. He's got a lot of heart.
He's got a lot of heart, but let's find that out when he's 26 and he's developed physically and he has some rounds under his belt. I mean, you're putting him in there against Bruce Leroy, who has almost 30 career fights. He's been in the UFC for almost a decade, it feels like. That was criminal to do to that kid, in my opinion. It was just not the right matchup. I don't think there's many people that kid is going to beat right now, and I think he should probably take at least 18 months to 2 years to physically develop, because for me, it's not entertaining to watch a 20-year-old kid get beat up by an MMA veteran. It's just not.
No, not at all. And I want your thoughts on this. I mean, my first thoughts is, I wasn't angry. I mean, of course I wasn't angry at Chase. I wasn't blaming Chase. My first thoughts was, who the hell is running his corner? This can't, you got to find a new camp. You got to fire these guys.
Well, not only that, but he kept walking into the same combination the whole fight.
Every single time.
Yeah, so it's like there was no strategy. There was no adjustments. It was just 15 minutes of him proving his toughness, which, again, is not always the best thing when you're 20 years old, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's got, in my opinion, I'd really like to see him get another camp. I don't like to say fire people, but fire people. You should fire people, Chase, right? Because you need to learn head movement, and you need to learn how to not eat every single punch.
And you need managers who aren't going to book him in a fight versus a 30-fight veteran.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily say that the booking was Chase doesn't know how to dodge a punch. Chase doesn't know how to dodge a punch, Fight Geek.
Right, but think about how many 145ers on the roster are kind of obscure guys who could have just been tossed in there, who aren't as seasoned, let's say, as Bruce Leroy. I mean, Bruce Leroy's been in a main event versus Yair Rodriguez. Do you think he was even remotely concerned with Chase Hooper?
Yeah, probably not. It's just a shame. So for the record, I like Chase, and I hope that he takes some time off, works on that. I almost want to tell him, dude, you should just box, just
naturally.
Just do Muay Thai for
similar to Sean O'Malley, who we'll talk about in a minute. Sean took those 2 years off. He came back. Now, he's not a big muscular guy, but he is much more developed than he was 2 years ago. He carries a lot more power. He's a lot more developed, and I just think that 20 to 24, 25 range, you're a completely different person physically once you've developed a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great segue. So let's move into it. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Eddie Wineland. O'Malley,
unbelievable. I didn't see it quite this dramatic, but I saw
the walk-off KO.
Right, I saw him stopping Eddie pretty clearly. I just think the kid understands distance. He's very smooth. He's very composed. He has a variety of strikes. I mean, I'm not saying anything anyone else doesn't know, but couldn't be more impressed with Sean O'Malley. A superstar in the making, in my opinion.
Definitely. And something that he's really developed that I think people don't talk about as much. And I understand, by the way, that when he was on Tuesday Night Contenders, he still was getting knockouts. But I think his power has gotten... So at least he knows how to channel it better. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, he definitely carries more power, and I think that's just, developing physically as you continue to sharpen your skills. That's just naturally going to come, and he's probably going to get more power as he gets to the 28, 29, 30 years old range.
Yep. I would ask you what Sugar Sean's ceiling is, but I believe that's a listener question. So
Okay.
we'll leave it. Okay, moving on. Neil, I really hope that's a listener question. Okay, Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin. Uh, First of all, I would have liked to have known that Kayla Harrison wasn't allowed to be there to shriek as loud as possible because I think that really put Anthony Rocco Martin at a big disadvantage not to have the shrieking of Kayla, his girlfriend.
With that being said, it was still a pretty close fight.
It was. But I thought. Look, Neil's looked pretty good lately because Anthony Rocco Martin, I mean, we both know he is no pushover.
No, no doubt. I think this was a better showing for Rocco Martin than it was for Neil Magny. Neil Magny's been in there with elite guys, and Rocco Martin continues to take that step up versus that next tier. So I thought he hung very close with Neil Magny. Magny kind of pulled it out at the end with his cardio. But Rocco Martin was in that fight. This was probably one of the closer fights on the card. I think there was some moral victories for Rocco there.
Yeah, I think that's honestly, I think that's fair to say. For the record, the fight that I personally thought was closest was actually the second one, Devin Clark, Alonzo Menafield. I know
that's a very close fight as well. My question is, so I heard that Rocco Martin is now at ATT Atlanta, so does that mean him and Kayla are no more?
Yeah, the truth is, I actually, I was just trying to make a joke about Kayla shrieking. I don't know about their romantic life right now. So I don't know if anyone wants to tweet us and say, you idiots, they broke up and blah, blah, blah. Feel free to do that.
We do a lot of research, but not quite the relationship TMZ.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on to, I feel like I want to say like the co-main, because you know what I mean? It's like the
all three of these were just
fire. Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen, and I think it's just, you've really got to...
That's my biggest misread on the card here.
I took Aljo, you took Corey in one of my few wins on when we disagreed here, but I have to rub it in your face because I usually get it wrong. But what did you think of that? I mean, rear naked choke, 1 minute and 28 seconds into round one.
I think that Aljo, who's usually a pretty energetic guy, had really harnessed his kind of focus and came out there. He was a Terminator from the time that bell sounded. He never let Sandhagen get comfortable, and as soon as he got his back, you could see how aggressively strong he is for that weight class, and it was just a wrap. Unbelievable performance.
Yeah, to me it's crazy how much Aljo has improved recently. Have you noticed that? Like, his improvement has been astronomical.
Yeah, I think his improvement is very natural and gradual, though. I mean, he's had setbacks, and then he's won a couple, and then he had a setback, and then he won a couple more. So he's really had, the proper time to learn, take a step back, and then improve. And I think he's one of the few guys who have actually gone through that full progression, which actually makes him a very dangerous title contender. Almost like how Tyron Woodley was, because he had the couple setbacks before he ever got to that elite level, and that kind of gave him a little bit of grit. He had to overcome, rather than just being an undefeated champion, etc. So yeah, I think that he has that great camp. I think he still is vulnerable on the feet, but if he can get the fight where he wants it, he has an advantage over a lot of guys in that division.
Absolutely. And then really quickly, so, it was announced earlier today that UFC 251 is Usman Burns, Volkanovski Holloway 2, and Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo for the vacant bantamweight belt.
They almost made the perfect card, but no, Aljo should be in there for Aldo.
I mean, isn't that just...
It's ridiculous that they're going to go ahead with Aldo, considering Sterling took 0 damage, was done in 90 seconds, is ready to go. He's the guy who everybody just watched on ESPN win.
Aldo lost his only fight.
So, I mean, that card is going to be bonkers no matter what, but that Aljamain Sterling omission is a little bit of a stain on it, but that's being super nitpicky.
Am I crazy for saying that now I'm badly rooting for Peter Yan? By the way, I like Aldo more than Yan. Let me just get that right out there.
I personally believe Peter Yan winning and holding the belt is way better for that division than if Jose Aldo is to get it.
If Jose Aldo wins it, I feel like it's a nightmare almost.
Yeah, now they're talking. I mean, yeah, if Jose Aldo wins it, I just think that, I don't know. There's a lot of great matchups and elite guys at the top, and I'm just not sure that would be the best for it right now.
I'm not even sure he sticks around if he wins it. I think he's trying to get the belt and bounce. I mean, to be honest.
No, I'm not sure about that. I just think that there's so many fresh guys that are building towards that title that to have an old stale name in there would really slow down the momentum.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move on to the co-main event. Oh my gosh. Cody Garbrandt with the KO, dare I say, of the year?
I would say that's got to be the front runner.
Yeah, against Rafael Assunção, 4 minutes and 59 seconds of round number 2. And just for the record, it wasn't just to the second; it was about to the millisecond. I mean, not really, but it was
fraction of a second.
It was well within that 1 second. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was classic Cody. I mean, even in the beginning, I don't know how you watched this fight, but I was watching this fight on the edge of my seat, just waiting for Cody to make a mistake. And he never did. He showed a ton of patience. I think what you saw with Cody, and you forget, is Cody may have the fastest hands in all of MMA. I mean, the guy
so fast.
Is lightning quick. And if he is focused, there's not going to be anybody who's going to win too many boxing exchanges with him. I thought this was the perfect fight for him the whole time because Assunção, as well-rounded and as great of a fighter as he is, doesn't possess that one-shot knockout power. And because of that, he never really backed Cody off. Cody got very comfortable. And then you even saw him starting to kind of do his pointing and his "you missed me," kind of flamboyant, showings in the cage. And you knew once he started doing that the old Cody was back. And then the finish, oh my God, I jumped out of my seat and ran around the house screaming. I could not believe that was so, I mean, it was just so gangster. He just went down, looked him off, timed him, and that thing came all the way from the feet, And like I heard some other people break it down. That was 3 years of frustration of Cody in that right hand. And goodness, he took Rafael's head off.
Oh yeah. I was actually watching the fights with one buddy, and he goes, "Holy shit!" and he just screamed it, and like my entire apartment shook. This dude's kind of like a burly guy with like a big voice, but I mean, it was ridiculous. What do you think is next for Cody, and what should be? Well, let me reword that. What should be next for Cody? Who should he fight next? Because he was saying flyweight. It seems like he's abandoned all that. He's calling out Peter Yan.
No, he's a bantamweight. We need Cody in the bantamweight division. I think his confidence was shaken, so he was looking for answers. But when you have a performance like that against Assunção, you announce yourself as a player again.
Yeah.
As sketchy as it sounds, I feel like Marlon Moraes versus Cody Garbrandt is the fight.
Is that too intense for Cody?
Well, that's what I mean. I see Cody getting knocked out in that fight, but that is the fight based on the rankings, in my opinion, if Aldo's going to get the belt or get a shot at the belt. I think that's just where they're at. Marlon's the odd man out. He technically deserves the title shot, so why not give him the next best thing, the biggest name in the division, which is Cody right now?
Yeah, the last thing, and by the way, I love that fight. I mean, I do. Yeah. I'm just nervous for Cody I'm a big No Love fan. I admit it. But
as a consolation, I mean, you could put him in there with, Corey Sandhagen. That might be a little bit much for Sandhagen coming off a bad loss, but there's plenty of matchups for Cody. I know a lot of people were calling for the Sean O'Malley fight, but that is just way too soon.
I don't agree with that at all. Why the hell would you do that? Why would you cannibalize one of your stars?
Both of them are red hot right now.
Right.
Why would you burn one next? Let them both see if they can get on a couple fight win streak, especially if Cody gets on a 2 or 3 fight win streak, then he's a superstar again.
Imagine if this is really far-fetched, but imagine Garbrandt gets the belt back and they do, Garbrandt O'Malley for the belt. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
And I think the clear fight for O'Malley has to be Chito Vera. It was already scheduled once. Vera's that perfect B-plus level fighter to test Sean.
Yeah.
It's a perfect fight. So I think he's not Cody Garbrandt range yet, but I definitely think Chito Vera.
Okay, fair enough. There's one thing I wanted to mention about this fight. One last thing before we move on. I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. Everyone was saying, oh my gosh, this is Cody 2.0. This is perfect Cody. Truthfully, I didn't think this was his best performance. Dana said this was his best performance. I don't agree at all.
It was not better.
Cruz was his best performance. Yeah.
But what it was him under new leadership as far as the striking goes, and he was incredibly patient. He was precise, and it paid off with a highlight reel knockout.
Absolutely.
Best case scenario.
Absolutely. He also got hit a few times hard, and he didn't lose his composure, which was great.
Yes, but he's also, a Sun Sal's not a big hitter.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. But the thing I wanted to really mention here is, okay, so with that knockout right hook, he still has that bad habit, even in the replay. Go watch it. He's got his left hand completely down when he throws the right, and that is one concern I have, because that's how you get slept.
No doubt, but
he's still keeping that left hand down. How has he not corrected that?
Well, I think that was a really fluid situation. I think his hands were up the majority of the fight. He knew
they were, but he dropped it on the right hook, and I don't know, it just made me nervous.
Yeah, it was almost like baiting him to come in, and if you watch that sequence, Sun Sal actually throws like a check kind of hook there, but doesn't quite hit Cody. He just leaves himself wide open for a counter. So I just think it was a perfect situation that he capitalized on.
Yep, fair enough. All right, moving on to the main event. Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. Fight Geek, as you know, we both chose Amanda, but I was really giving Felicia. I was saying, guys, don't sleep on Felicia. Once this goes into the third round, if she can survive to it, it becomes different when it goes to the ground. Boy, was I wrong, because Amanda toyed with her when it went to the ground.
And I do believe I mentioned that last week, and I thought it was comical how people kept acting as though Amanda would be threatened so much on the ground, because again, there's levels to this, and
hindsight's 20/20. Hindsight.
Felicia Spencer in all aspects of the game. So no disrespect to Spencer, but I think people really slept on Nunes and her black belt capabilities.
Okay, I by the way, fair play, fair enough. But then people are talking about putting in Megan Anderson. Felicia literally murdered Megan Anderson in half a round.
That's
so what will Megan do? Megan will be killed. I'm concerned for her safety.
I really personally hope Aldana beats Holm. That's a big name win for her. And then we get a striking match between Aldana and Nunes, and I would expect Nunes to knock her out. So it works for everybody.
Okay, last question. You said in the opening question when we were talking about Nunes, you said that you only think she's going to fight 2 or 3 more times. Now, I was really shocked by that, because she has she's an 8-time champion.
Right. But she's also
on a 10-fight
winning streak, having a child, and ran out of people to beat.
That sounds like if that sounds like an amazingly good problem to have. Oh no, I'm going to get paid to beat all of these losers that I.
No, I'm sure maybe we'll get 4 or 5 out of her, but we're going to have to wait and see how that 145-pound develops, because her 2 biggest threats, technically, Kayla Harrison, who's an ATT teammate, will never fight her, I'm assuming, and Cyborg is aging by the day and in another division or another promotion, so her options are running real thin. We're talking about throwing Irene Aldana in there with her. Do you think that's going to go well?
No, but my only question to you is this. Put yourself in Nunes' shoes for 1 second. If I'm Nunes, this is great. I've just beaten all of the hardest people.
I understand what you're saying.
And I'm just going to rack up all of the titles.
At some point, you walk away. I just personally.
But doesn't she want to beat Anderson Silva? Doesn't she want to beat John Jones and their records?
I don't know, Phil. Why don't you add her and ask? I don't know what her personal accomplishment goals are. I just know that.
Okay, fair.
I just know that.
Why do you not know her personal goals, Fight Geek? I expect you to know that.
They get tired of beating up lesser competition.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's very fair.
But again, the Aldana fight I think makes sense. If Aspen Ladd can win a couple fights, maybe that makes sense. But neither of those are offering any threats, in my opinion. So we're talking about Amanda's next 3 hypothetical opponents may not even have a chance to win a round against her.
Yeah, and I love Aspen. You know that, and no. Oh, no. No. Don't do that. Yeah, okay, all right. So are we ready to move on to UFC Vegas 2? Guys, that's what I'm calling it because I saw the hashtag / UFC Apex.
Thank God the UFC 250 had enough excitement to carry us through this weekend.
Yes, Exactly. Okay, so guys, we're gonna go through this card fairly quick. I'm gonna be honest, it ain't the best card. Okay, we're gonna go through it really quick. Okay, starting off with the first prelim fight geek, Anthony Ivy versus Christian Aguilera. Who you got? Start us off.
I'm going with Anthony Ivy. Don't know a ton about either guy, but I think Anthony Ivy's background's a little more impressive, so I'm running with him.
I got Ivy as well, and I've got him by unanimous decision. Moving on, Jordan Griffin versus Derek Minner. I'm taking Jordan Griffin via unanimous decision.
Excellent. This fight will be back and forth. Should be high energy, action-packed fight. This is another fun fight with not big names attached to it, but I'm taking Jordan Griffin here. I expect there to be a lot of back and forth action and then Griffin to get a late submission.
Awesome. Moving on, Ryan Benoit versus Tyson Nam. Who you got in this one? I'm very curious.
I'm actually taking Ryan Benoit. I think he's alternated wins over his last 8 fights, and he's coming off a loss, so he is due for a victory.
All right. I thought you were going to say that, and I am taking, I believe, slight underdog Tyson Nam. I think that it's going to be a very close fight, but Nam has been impressing me lately, and I think he's got enough to pull off a late stoppage in the second round.
All right, well, we'll see. We're going head-to-head on that one.
All right, Julia Avila versus Gina Mazzani. It's my turn. I got Julia Avila.
Okay, without breaking it down too much, I got Julia Avila as well. I just think she's the superior fighter.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, Gina Mazzani, it says she's unranked, which is very strange to see because even if they're not ranked in the world, Tapology will usually say where they're ranked, ranked 45 Northwest US, and Gina's completely unranked, so that's a really bad sign.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Charles Rosa versus Kevin Aguilar. Whose turn is it? Yours?
Tough fight, yeah. Really could make a case either way. This should be some fun action, but I'm taking Charles Rosa in a bounce-back performance here.
All right. That's very interesting because I do disagree with you. I've got Kevin Aguilar winning this thing in another back-and-forth fight, but I've got him.
You've got him winning with strikes, or how do you see him winning?
I see him winning, I think, by unanimous decision. And again, I always pick unanimous decisions, and it's always more exciting than that. But I see this being back and forth, and I don't see him getting a stop.
Yeah, I see it being back and forth. I think Rosa will get the better of him. I got Rosa by split decision.
Okay, very fair. Moving on to Maria Agapova versus Hannah Cifers. Is it my turn?
Quick turnaround for Hannah Cifers. What I've been noticing is these Corona cards.
Quick turnarounds for people. Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing really quick turnarounds. You're seeing fighters that aren't getting full 3-month camps anymore. So I think that really is affecting some of the outcomes. So just something to watch with these quick turnarounds. I am taking Hannah Cifers here.
As am I.
I'm not really sure why, but I'm taking her.
No, I'm taking Cifers as well. And you know what? I think she's going to get the stop in the second round.
Okay, moving on. Next one.
Jordan Espinosa versus Mark De La Rosa.
Oh, this should be a fun fight.
This is a really fun one. This actually jumped out to me, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jordan Espinosa gets the win here in a tough back-and-forth fight. I keep saying that, but these are all very evenly matched fights.
And we disagree again. I'm taking the heavy underdog, Mark De La Rosa, to pull off that upset, son.
Well, he's a big underdog for a reason.
All right, we'll see what happens. Next, Andre Touchy-Feely. I will never stop laughing at that nickname.
Arguably the best nickname in the game.
Versus Charles Jourdain.
Charles Jourdain looked great in his last performance. Obviously has a lot of potential. Andre Touchy-Feely almost is like a Bruce Leroy type to me. He started so young, lots of experience.
It's so funny, Bruce Leroy. Yeah.
But I think Feely's a little better. I'm taking Feely in this fight. I think we'll probably see the best version we've ever seen of him. And he has considerable upside still. I mean, he's been around forever, even though he seems fairly young. Andre Feely here for me, on the feet.
Yeah, I got Andre Feely by. Ready? Late first round knockout.
Nice. Okay, another interesting matchup. Ray Borg versus Merab Divishvili.
All right. So you picked first, right? On the last one?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Okay. So this fight really jumped out. Ooh, this is an interesting one. I am so sorry for Ray Borg. He is going to get so badly beaten up in this fight, and I take no pleasure in saying that. Ray Borg is about to get his ass beat in a very dark way. Merab doesn't play.
He's moving up in weight. Merab is big for that weight class.
Merab is a killer. He's a killer. Too.
Yeah, and Merab goes nonstop. So I know that Ray has a pretty good pace sometimes too. So this could be back and forth. But I just think that Merab is going to be too big and strong. I just can't see otherwise right now.
I got Merab by TKO second round.
I've got Merab by unanimous decision.
You think Ray Borg survives 3 with Merab? That'd be impressive on its own, honestly.
Yeah, I think he will survive. I mean,
Merab he's a bad man fight.
I know, but Ray Borg's been in a training camp to face Demetrius Johnson. I mean, he's not new to this game. I think he'll survive.
Yeah. Okay. Very fair. Moving on to the co-main. This is fun, man. Carl Roberson versus Marvin Vettori. And if you guys don't remember, this was the fight where is it Roberson or Roberson? I better get that right.
I think it's Roberson.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Okay, that's what I thought. So Roberson had to pull out last minute. He had some weight-cutting complications. And then Marvin Vettori, I guess, found him and his team when they were leaving the hotel.
I don't know if they found him. And I think this has been misreported. I think they passed by each other.
Yeah.
Roberson started talking crap to Vettori, and Vettori said, well, if you're going to act tough here, why didn't you fight me? I think that was the...
Are you sure Roberson was talking crap, though? I don't know about that. Is that what you heard?
I don't know, but I do know that I'm looking forward to the fight, and I'm taking Vettori all day. I think Vettori is one of the most underrated prospects on the roster.
100%. And the truth is 100%. When I was watching that video, a lot of people were saying, oh my God, they were really bashing Vettori, but I felt for him, to be honest. I really felt for him. He was heartbroken.
Well, I guess he's had 3 or 4 fights that have fallen through in a row. So that kid is just young, ready to fight, and wants an opponent. So you can understand his frustration, especially considering he's flying from Italy, I believe, right?
Yeah, which is crazy because when he speaks, he doesn't really. I don't know if when he speaks, he doesn't really have an accent. At least when he At least during the Carl Roberson video when he's shouting at him.
Shouting obscenities. He sounds like an American.
No, he sounded completely American. He's like, "Then fucking fight! Then fucking fight, man!"
So yeah, he's got he reminds me of like a hockey player goon
Yes.
vibe.
That's that's very accurate.
Say again.
That's very accurate, hockey player goon. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that should be a fun one either way. Grudge match. I'm sure someone gets knocked out.
Yeah, and I'm guessing Vettori's going to be knocking out Carl in the second round.
I will take TKO first round, Marvin Vettori.
Woo! Okay, moving on to that main event that no one can wait for. Just kidding. Oh my gosh, what the hell? Jessica Eye versus Cynthia Calvillo.
I will say this though, once you really start diving into this fight, if you're a fight geek like me, it's a pretty solid fight. I don't know if it's a main event, but it is a good fight.
Yeah.
You're not buying it?
I mean, that's fine.
You just are so sour on Jessica Eye, which
I am. And guys, I admit that. It's so true. I'm very sour on Jessica Eye.
But I think Jessica Eye has something to offer, obviously. But with that said, I'm going to take Cynthia Calvillo here. I just think that she has more ways to finish a fight. I think she's a better grappler on the ground. I think she'll have an opportunity to submit Jessica Eye. I might be the better boxer, but I think Cynthia actually hits a little harder and again has the better finishing skills. So I'm going to take Cynthia Calvillo via 4th round submission.
Gosh, I really hate when we agree. I've got Calvillo by 3rd round submission.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I mean, I could see a very close boxing match and I winning a 48-47 or something like that, but I really, really see Cynthia winning and finding a scramble and submitting her. So.
All right. Okay, with that, we're ready to take a really quick break and then be right back with listener questions. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special split podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.totalaggressionclothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 67, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. And Fight Geek, it is now time for my favorite section of all, Listener Questions!
All right, let's get into them.
Thank you. All right, this is a DM listener question from my boy Zan Bando. He's an amazing writer, great guy. That's at ZAINBANDO99. Give him a follow, guys. He says, out of the 3 title fights on UFC 251, which one is the one to watch if you could only choose a single title fight? And so those are Usman Burns, Volk Holloway 2, and Peter Yan Jose Aldo. Go ahead.
I mean, it might be recency bias, but, God, it's hard. I'd have to say Gilbert Burns versus Usman just because I'm so intrigued. But
100%.
But other than that, I mean, Volkanovski, Holloway too, I have to see that as well because I don't remember that as one-sided for Volk as a lot of other people seem to. So I'm really interested in that fight. But based on Gilbert Burns and the drama in the welterweight division and him kind of seizing this opportunity and kind of having the perfect, well-rounded game going against a specialist like Usman, I think that fight's going to be spectacular.
I completely agree with you. I think that the people that are saying, oh, Burns doesn't deserve it, you guys just like Burns because he's on Twitter a lot and he doesn't deserve that number 1 spot and he's not going to do well. You guys are crazy, okay? Seriously. I watched what he did to Woodley. Woodley was proud that he didn't get knocked unconscious. Woodley was proud.
In the first round, he had Woodley hurt on the defensive. I mean, not only that, but he has the true black belt elite skill to really counter the wrestling of Usman. I don't know if anyone in the welterweight division has his kind of jiu-jitsu. I know Damian Maia does, but he doesn't have the physicality to implement it like a Gilbert Burns if he has to. Gilbert Burns has gotten so good on the feet that he doesn't even have to go to his best skills. So, I mean, Gilbert Burns is the truth in my opinion. I don't think there's any reason to hate on that fight.
It's an amazing. I mean, I can't understand hating on it. It's an amazing.
fight. Someone described him as a welterweight version of Jacare, and I think that's exactly what he is. Jacare was a monster for a decade, and I think Gilbert Burns is the same type of fighter.
Absolutely, I can't wait for the fight myself. Okay, so moving on. Okay, this question comes from Fighting With Myself podcast. Juice, what up? He says, I like this question a lot. Who has more to lose, Jessica I or Cynthia Calvillo? #AskSplitPod.
Jessica I, 100%. She's the number 1 contender in that division. She's hanging on by an absolute thread. And if she loses to Cynthia Calvillo, she will immediately, start dropping down the rankings and lose that appeal as like one of the elite fighters in the class. If she wins, she holds serve and stays there. So I think it's Jessica I. Cynthia Calvillo, a loss versus I isn't the worst thing because, like I said, she's the number 1 contender, and Cynthia's technically a weight class above her original, so there's a little bit of leeway there for her to have some growing pains. So I definitely think it's Jessica I.
Yep, I think that's very fair. All right, moving on to a question from our boy, Jokers LL. That's at Jokers LL. He says, #AskSplitPod. By the way, Jokers LL is a big Max Holloway fan. You'll understand why I had to say that. He says, if Max is robbed a second straight time, what do you think he does next? Move up or down? Stay at featherweight? I'd like to see him at lightweight in the future, regardless of how UFC 251 turns out. That's a great question.
It is a great question, and I absolutely agree, Jokers. I think that if Max were to lose, he should go to 155. I believe the crop of 155 elite are actually getting a little older. You've got the guys like Cerrone, and I hate to throw Ferguson in there, but he is 36 years old. These guys are going to be rotating out. Max, although he's been around forever, is still young enough to have 5 or 6 year run. in a division, and I think he could be that next wave of lightweight elite. So I think lightweight has got to be in his future.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely agree with that, by the way. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, man, Max looked really small in terms of, physical body type when he was fighting Dustin. And I agree with that.
But Dustin's basically a welterweight nowadays.
Dustin's basically a welterweight. Furthermore, Fight Geek, I don't think Max had you need proper time to build up if you're changing weight classes.
I mean, if you remember during that time, Max was taking fights with Khabib. He'd take a fight here, take a fight there. Then he had the whole, the weight cutting drama. So there was a lot going on.
And by the way, people like to forget this. By the way, anyone who's questioning this, go back and watch Holloway versus Poirier 2. That fight's a lot closer than you remember.
Absolutely. And Holloway started turning the tide.
Oh, yeah. That fight is a lot closer than people remember it. Everyone thinks Poirier smoked him, and it's just not true.
Well, it was a great performance by Poirier.
Oh, it was,
yes,
of course.
Max held his own and arguably won 2 rounds in that fight after losing big early.
That's what I meant. 3-2, though. Decent.
Yeah, no, it was a hell of a fight. I think it's one of the better fights that people kind of overlook.
Absolutely. Okay, so this question next is coming from my boy at Cyrus King. He's got a great podcast himself, Combat Corner. Check that out, guys. Love Cyrus, one of my greater friends on MMA Twitter. He says, what are your thoughts on Bellator? Literally, since Corona, UFC has had 6 cards. We don't really know when Bellator will return. When will Viacom give Scott the boot?
Well, I mean, I don't think that they're able to be on the shelf this long unless Viacom is okay with it, right? I mean, if they were pushing the envelope, I think we'd see Bellator back. So I'm not sure that's the issue. I just not quite sure what is the issue.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Fikey, because this is a bigger question.
Do they rely on their live gates more so than the UFC? Possibly. Maybe
sure.
That live gate is more important.
I'm sure. And let me ask you this. What do you think of Scott Coker's performance? Because I have very complicated feelings. I used to be a really big fan of his, and now I really hate to say it, I kind of think he might be making some really catastrophic decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what catastrophic decisions means. I mean, unless Bellator
losing DAZN is not good.
See, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I had a DAZN membership. I didn't use it. Wasn't overly impressed with the product. So I think that if Bellator were to go somewhere else, it might actually be more accessible and better for me personally. So I don't really hold that the same way you do. I don't think DAZN was that big of a get for them in retrospect. But they do need to start putting on fights, and they need to continue to build their roster. And those are the things that are important, in my opinion. Those are the things that are going to keep people coming back,
Yeah, no, totally agree.
But, whenever you're away this long, you become somewhat irrelevant, and then you really have to start from scratch when you relaunch. You know what I mean?
Yep. 100%. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bellator handles that. But
it's almost like they did close their doors and will be like reopening, So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So moving on to this is from King Richard. I believe he's a new questioner. We always welcome that. Hello, King Richard. That's at @V_King Richard _V. He says, since literally none of us believe Conor is retired for good, how likely do you see a fight between him and Silva going down, and how do you see that fight turning out? And oh yeah, guys, we did fail to announce that Kyer fake retired. Retired for real a 3rd time in 4 years earlier this week.
Yeah. So obviously Conor's retirement is
a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's just another way for him. I'm not sure if the goal is for him to use it as leverage in negotiation or if he's just that desperate to always steal headlines and others' attention. I mean, obviously, 250 was a great card. The whole community was buzzing about it, and Conor, of course, had to insert himself into that conversation. So I'm not quite sure what the exact reason is. Do I think he'll fight Anderson Silva?
You think he will?
I don't think it'll be. I mean, no, I don't think he'll end up fighting Anderson Silva because that fight makes absolutely no sense, no matter how you want to put it, other than Conor wants to stay busy, and it's a way for them to protect his title aspirations in 2 divisions while also giving him a fight.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason it makes sense. You could have him go up to 180, 175 catch weight, fight Anderson Silva, who's 50 years old. And if he somehow loses to Silva, it's because he's carrying around 30 extra weight or 30 extra pounds, and he can still go back down. But if he somehow beats Anderson Silva, then he gets to put one of the greatest fighters of all time on his resume and act like it's a big accomplishment. Yeah. So I kind of see it as a win-win for Conor, but I just don't see how the organization would ever connect those dots. So
right.
I don't know if I answered the question, but
no, I think you did. And one thing that I wanted to note, that's worth noting, is that something very interesting happened. It was either late last night or early this morning. Dana White made Conor look very bad, and this is the first time he's done that in a while, or maybe ever. I
noticed that. He's getting a little tired of the shtick.
He's getting tired of Conor because he said, "Look, we offered Conor to fight Tony Ferguson at UFC 249, and he said his exact response." This is in Dana's words, everyone. This is Dana's words. Dana said his response was, "I'm not a replacement fighter. That's not who I am." He didn't say he couldn't leave Ireland. Let's be real clear. He didn't say he couldn't leave Ireland, for plain reasons. He said, "I'm not a replacement fighter." And that, to me, was very damaging to Conor, and it was fascinating that it came from Dana's lips.
Yeah, I don't think it's fascinating as much as, Dana has other objectives other than keeping Conor McGregor happy during this time in the world. He's trying to keep his doors open. You look at the quick turnarounds of the American fighters. Now we have Fight Island where the European fighters are going to be. This is a lot of behind the scenes. They're obviously, I think they said they're going to lose over $100 million in live gate this year.
Yep.
And Conor doesn't want to take any less money. So I get that he's obviously earned the tier he's in for making money, but you also can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't make $15 million with no live gate. It's just not realistic, I don't think. So,
yeah.
Could you imagine if he did get that Silva fight and his last two fights is him beating up Cerrone and Silva? I don't know.
That's quite a
strange career arc.
That'd be quite a decision. Again, I want to be careful.
I could see Conor winning a decision versus Anderson, similar to the.
Anderson's a bajillion years old, of course.
Right.
Wait, of course.
But I could also see
Conor could win.
Big and strong enough to catch him, maybe.
That's why I think. You said it's a win. That's why I think it's a lose-lose situation for Conor. If Conor wins, he looks like a bully, and if he loses, whoa, boy, he lost to a 50-year-old.
But that doesn't matter because in 10 years, when it's all said and done, he'll have Anderson Silva on his win-loss record.
Yeah, you really think people will just completely forget the circumstances?
Well, I think there'll be a reintroduction of people to, as history takes place and you look back, for instance, you look back at Matt Hughes' career now. You can look at it with a lot more relevance of the fights that happened and who they were against and yada, yada. Maybe I'm making a point against myself. I don't know. I just think that Conor would find a way to leverage an old Anderson Silva on his record to say that he's beaten one of the greats, yada, yada, yada. You know how Conor paints his own narratives.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Okay, moving on to a question from our main man, Kev, at KevC918. Who would you guys feel is most likely to leave the UFC for good? Jones, Jorge, or Conor? They all seem frustrated, but I doubt any of them actually go to a Bellator or one. Thanks and keep up the great work.
So when you say leave the UFC for good, he's talking about for another promotion or for retirement? Either or?
I think either or.
Because I think Conor retiring is actually the most logical situation of that. I don't think
there's zero chance Conor is retiring.
Huh?
I think there's zero chance Conor's retiring. No?
Well, there's zero chance that John Jones or Jorge Masvidal leave the UFC under multi-fight contracts and neither of John has probably made his money. I don't think Jorge's made his money. He's proving that he hasn't made his money by the fact that he's sticking to his guns, that he needs more money. You know what I'm saying?
Jones is. Are you so sure Jones has made his money? Because he doesn't sell out. UFC 247. He didn't sell out the stadium.
He's alluding to that he made $5 million that last fight.
Well, Jones alludes to a lot of things that aren't always true.
Well, I think others have alluded to that's what he's making per fight. So I mean, if he's making $5 million per fight, I think Jones has plenty of money.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Again, we don't know how maturely he spends that money, but hopefully it's in a mature
Right.
way about regarding his
I
family.
mean, he's been fighting for it seems like 20 years now. I mean, if the guy doesn't have $10 million put away, then ugh. And not only that, both of his brothers played in the NFL. I mean, that family should have plenty of money.
I mean, you're right. You're kind of insinuating that John Jones makes smart decisions, though.
That's true.
I'm just kidding around. Okay, all right, moving on to my man, Jalen Ware at Strive2B_great. Love this guy. He says, with no real competitive contenders, should Amanda sit out for a long time and wait to see if the UFC will sign Kayla Harrison at 145, or should she campaign to face Val a third time? #AskSplitPod.
I'm sticking to my guns here. I think that Nunes won't be able to get Shevchenko a fight just yet because I think Dana actually likes having the two separate dominant champions and two.
Oh
different
yeah.
divisions.
He did not. They brought
Right.
that up at the post-fight presser at 250, and he did not like it.
Well, they're both main event fighters right now, Valentina and Amanda. So technically, they can stand on their own for a little while, and I understand that from a business standpoint.
Yep.
I think Nunes will just take the next available challenger. Again, I think it's Aldana. I do not think she will ever fight Kayla Harrison. Like I said, they're teammates.
Harrison would die. She'd be murdered. It'd be a murder.
I think they have way too much respect for each other to fight. I mean, so yeah, I don't think Kayla Harrison's an option, and I think Nunes will just wait for the next available 135-pound title challenger. It's just kind of what I see.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. Okay, so moving on to our main man, Dean Dog. That's at Dean Dog 3. Love Dean R. Dean, what up? And I love this question because this is like a really hardcore question. He says, okay, so they just announced Luis Pena versus Kama Worthy for June 27th. I think this is one of the best matchups. Who you got? #AskSplitPod.
It is a great matchup, but for some reason when I saw the initial graphic, I thought he was fighting Mark Diakase, and I thought that was an even better matchup. But
who? Pena or Worthy fighting Diakase?
Pena versus Diakase is what I thought the graphic would be.
Why'd you have to get me? Okay, don't get people excited on fake fights, though. I agree.
Yeah, sorry.
I agree. That is good.
Confused. With that said, yeah, it's a fun fight. I'm going to take Luis Pena here.
Really?
Yeah, he's big, obviously. Great grappler. He's shown, issues with finishing, but I think what he has shown is the ability to get to a guy's back and control him. So I kind of see that happening here.
I've got Kama Worthy. Am I crazy?
I don't know.
I've got Worthy.
Well,
Don't
there you
ask me
have
how.
It should be fun, though. Violent Bob Ross.
Violent Bob Ross and Kama
Always
Worthy.
an interesting guy to tune into. I know we've been a little disappointed in some of his performances, but because of the lack of finishing ability, it feels like he has guys in trouble and doesn't quite know how to get them out of there, but he has guys in control quite a bit.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to another great friend of the program, one of our OGs, Glitch. That's at MMA Port. Guys, he always brings the fire. Make sure you follow him. He says, #AskSplitPod. What is Cody Garbrandt's ceiling under Mark Henry's coaching? Wow, I love that question. I love it.
I would say title challenger.
You don't think he can win back the strap?
I do not think Cody Garbrandt will ever win back the strap based on the weaknesses he has shown.
Interesting. Okay.
But I do think he could get himself back to a title fight, but I do think the true elite will expose his hit, or what is it, give one, get one mentality. Because even though he will have great performances, Cody's a take one, give one kind of guy. That's just who he is. And that will come out again, especially if he's in a blood feud with someone like TJ Dillashaw or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is Rafael Sunsao. This is an easy guy who comes in with a very laid-back demeanor.
Well, Sunsao is top. Let's not. He was top ranked a few.
He's top ranked, but I mean his demeanor. He's not going to come in there and put his forehead against you and try to intimidate you and talk crap. He's very laid back. He let Cody get comfortable. Whereas someone like TJ Dillashaw, hyper aggressive, talking, in his face, kind of giving it back to him, flustering him, and then in the fight, pressuring him, having the ability to threaten him,
Yeah, fair enough.
I
Okay.
don't want to say Cody's a front runner, but his style is built to be a front runner, in my opinion.
Okay, so I'm going to take this question a slightly different way because he says, what is Cody Garbrandt's ceiling? Now, I'm taking that as the absolute best. I know that, and I think that's how you took it too. And you're saying title challenger. Now, I'm saying he can win the title. Now, does that mean that I think he'll win the title? No, but this question asks what his ceiling is.
His skill, he has the skill set of a champion. That's already been proven.
Right. No, but I still think he can do it again with Mark Henry. I just think a lot of things would have to go right.
Dude, think about him getting through Marlon Moraes and tell me he's going to be champion again.
I think make Marlon versus Garbrandt.
You think Marlon Moraes throws one of those head kicks that caught Jimmy Rivera and Cody walks through that?
No, not really.
Yeah, I don't think so either. All I'm saying is there's a lot of tough matchups for a guy like Cody who has shown.
You also named you named one of the worst matchups stylistically.
Well, that's Marlon Moraes ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
he's gonna be sitting in number 1 through number 3 for the next 4 years.
I hate when you're right. Yeah. Okay. All right. He's right. Fight Geek's right. Let's move on. I hate this. Okay. All right. Cut that out. I don't like when you win. Moving on to Eduardo. That's at Landa Crew. I love this question. How many more fights does Sean O'Malley need to win before he gets a title shot? #AskSplitPod.
You're going to think I'm crazy, but 3.
I don't think you're crazy at all. I was going to say 4. You say 3.
I think the trajectory could be something like Chito Vera, Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes title shot.
Chito Rivera, Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes title shot. Yeah, I mean, I think that's possible. I think it's going to take one more, personally. I don't believe that he's ranked right now, correct?
No, but he will be. I don't know if the new rankings come out, but I'm almost 100% anticipating him being 12 or 13, something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it looks like they've not come out for the record. But I agree with you. Here's my question. How is he going to do against a Cody Stamen? That seems like actually a kind of hard matchup for Sugar Sean.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough upside there, honestly. I think right now you want to put him in the kind of fights that he has an opportunity to really thrive in. And I love Chito Vera, but Chito Vera is going to go back and forth with him on the feet, and that's going to be conducive to Sean looking very good.
Yeah.
Dominic Cruz at some point, I don't know what he's planning to do with his career, but I mean, I at this point, it sounds absurd to say, but I would almost think that Dominic Cruz would be the perfect name for Sean O'Malley to kind of get his rub from, similar to the way Cody Garbrandt got his rub. It sounds absurd to think about O'Malley versus Cruz, but if he were to beat Cruz, it would be like, okay, he has arrived. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that, if Cruz keeps deciding to fight, that would be a really exciting one.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Okay, moving on. This is a great one from Proper Vegetables, our OG. This is at the Gamer 3R357. He says, do you think it's fair to say that Masvidal ducked Usman, given the information that we have? Also, who's next for Masvidal? #AskSplitPod. And he has now subtweeted Ariel Helwani saying, UFC made one last effort to book Usman versus Masvidal as late as yesterday, I'm told, but in the end they could not come to terms with Masvidal.
Yeah, again, I don't think that anybody is ducking anyone. I just think that the nature of business is tough right now. When you're Masvidal, are you going to take half as much money to fight for the belt against a twice as dangerous opponent? I understand where he's coming from.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, though, you're getting a shot to become the champion.
100%. But once you're the champion, if you're still not making as much as doing stupid fights with Nate Diaz, then how valuable is having that belt to begin with?
Okay, but I'm not. Why are you convinced that Masvidal is a much more popular fighter than Usman? I mean, let's just be honest.
No, what I'm saying is Masvidal wouldn't budge on what the offer was. I don't think it's that he was afraid of the competition.
Right.
I think that the numbers and the managerial portion of the negotiations is where this got caught up. I don't think that Masvidal is like, I'm worried about losing to Usman, so I don't want this fight. I think he wants that fight. I just think he wants to be paid according to a trajectory that's going up. I don't think he wants to go straight down based on his last performance being the biggest one of his career. So there's two objectives here. The UFC is trying to find guys to fight for half of their pay because there's no live gate. But these superstars that are well known are not wanting to negotiate. So I just don't see there anywhere to go there. I don't think it has anything to do with ducking anyone. I just think it's all business.
No, I agree with you. I think the last thing I'll ask about this question is, if we go a step further, I think Proper Vegetables is asking, is it fair to say that Masvidal technically ducked Usman? I understand what you're saying about the finances.
I don't think that is fair to say at all. No.
Okay. Very fair. Very fair. Yeah, my thoughts on that are complicated and not particularly
and arguably Gilbert Burns' one win over Woodley it's almost more impressive than anything that Jorge actually has done to this point, even though that sounds absurd.
No. I mean, what do you mean? It's true.
I mean, I love Jorge and he's a big star and he puts a smackdown, but you look at the guys that he's laid in his wake on this run, and Darren Till's no longer a 170-pound guy, you know. Ben Askren is retired.
Yep.
And then, I mean, and Nate Diaz, I love Nate Diaz, but I think it's clear that he's on the downside of his career. So, again, I think beating Tyron Woodley, the former champion, number one contender, that decisively almost is worth the leapfrog. So I think it's playing out how it's supposed to, personally.
All right. Excellent. So we've only got a few more questions left. This is from our good friend and OG, Octopus Toes. That's at Octopus_Toes. What's up, OT? He says, gotta ask about my Swedish guy. Gustafsson is rumored to be scheduled against Verdum at heavyweight next. What do you think about his chances in that fight and at heavyweight in general? I think that's a very good question.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking this question, because this is probably the thing I've been thinking on the most this week that has got no attention. Alexander Gustafsson coming back at heavyweight, it sounds like a horrible idea in my opinion.
It does. I'm glad you said it first. It sounds like a horrible idea.
The guy had absolutely no cardio and no gas tank at 205. I can't imagine him carrying around 30 extra pounds is going to be much of a help. He's horrible on the ground, and he's going in there with arguably the best heavyweight grappler in history. I expect both of them to be horribly out of shape. This is the most bizarre booking of all time, in my opinion. I think this is more bizarre than Latifi fighting as a heavyweight.
Derek Lewis?
Yeah, this is just weird.
Which, by the way, many people said Latifi won that fight, by the way.
I don't know. All I know is that I would anticipate Gustafsson to have, obviously an enormous speed and striking advantage over a Verdum. But the fact that he's coming back at heavyweight, I really don't know what we could expect physically from him. Is this just a cash grab and he doesn't want to cut weight? Like, I honestly, he had never even mentioned moving to heavyweight in his career. His last few, performances were horrible. So yeah, I mean, this is strange, but MMA is gonna MMA. Who knows? He could come out and look like the next big heavyweight contender now that I've kind of poo-pooed it.
Look, I mean, I know I'm supposed to disagree with you here, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you about how Alexander Gustafsson's going to go and dethrone, Miocic or Cormier or Ngannou. I would just sound like a crazy idiot. I
just don't understand the matchup. First of all, Verdum looked like he was 20 pounds overweight in his last fight.
Yeah.
So unless he's going to make a quick turnaround and get in shape, I don't even know how you get a read on this fight.
100%. But I've got Verdum winning that Octopus Toes, and I feel bad because I suspect you may be Swedish, which I never knew. You might be Swedish, and I am sorry for that we don't believe in Alexander's success at heavyweight. Maybe we'll be proved wrong, though, Octopus Toast.
Well, I mean, considering how bad Verdum looked, I mean, he may have a chance. There's just so many unknowns with Alexander Gustafsson at heavyweight. Like, I have to see it before I can wrap my head around it because it just sounds like a nightmare.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so now moving on to our final listener question. This is from the man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Jim Assoon. Here it is.
What's going on, you bunch of fucking casuals? Alright there, Phil and Fight Geek. I don't know what to say this week for my question. I don't know, fuck. That Fight Island bullshit, what the fuck is that, man? They already fought there, you know that, right? Like, hello? Whatever fucking verbal diarrhea Dana was using there to fucking make it sound like they bought an island or secured an island or whatever the fuck he wants to say. You know, like, give me a break, man. Making it a big deal. Here we're all, you know what I mean, having our minds be some Caribbean island or some, you know what I mean, amazing backdrop and everything, and no, we're gonna fucking, no, I'm not gonna say it. Anyways, that's my question for you. What do you think about this Fight Island thing that Dana's going on about? You happy about it, or you wish it was somewhere else like I do? You know it's always 420. Peace.
And that segment is brought to you by Uncle Jim.
Yep,
No.
exactly. No, love Jim. So,
No, Fight Island. I mean, it was very UFC to like build it up and then like announce something that was a little underwhelming, I guess. Kind of, you know, it seems to be their MO.
And by the way, I should clarify, I have nothing against Abu Dhabi. A lot of people are like, what do you have against Abu Dhabi?
I just think that,
but it's just a letdown because that's not what was marketed.
right, and I think we all want, like, you know, we want something that's super dramatic.
I wanted Jurassic Park, straight up.
Exactly. So I did too, but as long as they give me a Saturday, a Wednesday, and a Saturday night of entertainment, I could really care less where they're fighting. Just keep fighting, please.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to for me. I'm so desperate for this entertainment and to keep the wheels, you know, moving on this show and watching sports and like just kind of having something to escape to. You know, Fight Island, no Fight Island, I'll take it all.
I completely agree. I actually sometimes feel like telling people when they're complaining about the cards, like, yo, you realize that there's no other sports and that 2020 is like literally the worst year of all time, right?
You realize they're playing Korean baseball all night on ESPN, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know about you, but, you know, I really use sports as an escape. So when I don't have it,
yes,
get a little restless.
Yes. You say that and you are married. I am single. So, right. Yes. Okay, but Fight Geek just saved me because he is totally right. We didn't answer Jacob Powers' question. Jacob, I'm so sorry, homie. That's at Jacob Powers 2. He says, #AskSplitPod. In your guys' opinion, how would you rank O'Malley, Garbrandt, and Sterling's finishes from this weekend? So he wants an order. To me, I've definitely got my order, and I'm just going to say it goes Garbrandt, Sterling, O'Malley. I give Sterling the second place over O'Malley because it was against a better opponent.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but you are wrong. It's definitely Garbrandt, O'Malley, and then Sterling.
Whoa. Against Corey Sandhagen? Dude, bro, what?
No, but I mean, walk off one shot straight right hand. I mean,
against
it was almost
drunk Eddie Wineland. I mean, not drunk, but come on.
It doesn't matter who it was against. It was in the UFC cage. First of all, it's almost the identical highlight that they show leading up to his fight in the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. It's like you see that one highlight they show a million times of him dropping that guy with the one shot, and you're like, oh, that's kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime knockout. That's why they show that 100 times on loop. And then the kid comes out and does it again against a real opponent. I think that was spectacular.
All right, yeah. All right, so there you have it. Me and Fight Geek agree Garbrandt was number 1. I say Sterling 2, O'Malley 3. He says O'Malley 2 and Sterling 3. Thank you I love that question, Jacob. My bad that I can't believe I almost read over that because Jacob.
I'm gonna say honorable mention though. Calf kick KO by Perez was pretty damn cool.
Definitely. Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so with that, Fight Geek, I believe that's it. Take us away, baby.
All right, guys. As usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split Podcast. It's 4 words. The Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.